Good morning. Welcome to Melrose Unitarian Universalist Church. Our service today is called Threads of Change. My name is Ginger Lazarus. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am serving as your worship host today while Reverend Suzanne Introligator is on medical leave. In place of our usual coffee hour today, we're having a potluck lunch after the service in Parish Hall. All are welcome. For all other announcements of church activities, please see your midweek update. Leading our service today is our anti-racism team with music from MUUC. Next Sunday, our special guest is our former interim minister, Reverend Anita Farber Robertson, here in person. Thank you. Thank you today to our ushers, Alex Leach and Michelle DeVoe, and our greeter, Mary Delahanty. Now, it's time for our weekly moment of greeting. So those here in person can wave to each other and say hello. Hello, hello. We've got our Zoom congregation up on screen. Say hello. Good morning, everyone.
I call us to worship with these words by Wilma Mankiller, first female chief of the Cherokee Nation, serving from 1985 to 1995. The most fulfilled people are those who get up every morning and stand for something larger than themselves. And now, together, we light the symbol of our living faith, the flaming chalice. Here to light it and lead our covenant is Mary Beth Griscom.
Good morning. I invite you now to rise in body or spirit and join me in the words of our covenant, which you can see on the screen. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. This is our great covenant, one with another and with our God. Stand up. Please remain standing while Tom plays our opening music.
Also on the face We are delighted to have our MUUC member, Alistair MUUC, sing one of his songs for our Story for All Ages time. Alistair is an award-winning singer-songwriter and a social justice and songwriter educator for all ages. The MUUC anti-racism team also is very proud to be supporting, as is our church, his and Stacy Babb's Opening Doors project. The project is rooted in the conviction that white people have a role to play in advancing racial justice, and that the arts can be a powerful medium for sparking advocacy.
I guess kids are sitting where you are. That's okay, I see you. Hi, everybody. If you want to come sit in the middle here, you're very welcome. Just come sit right in the aisle. Or you can sit there. Two little eyes staring from a crib, a tiny little mouth drooling from a bib, a tiny little fist with a tiny little grip. Before they grew up, everybody was a kid. Malcolm X was a kid, and Dr. King was a kid. Mahatma Gandhi was a kid. The Dalai Lama was a kid. Before they got tall, before they grew big, they used to be small. Everybody was a kid. You are a kid. You got dirt on your hands sometimes. You wipe them on your shirt, yeah, you wipe them on your pants. But one of these days, you're gonna get real big. How do I know? 'Cause everybody was a kid. So where you gonna go? Yeah, what you gonna do? Who you gonna be? We're waiting on you. We're holding our breath and our lips are all bit, because we all know everybody was a kid. Oprah Winfrey was a kid, and Angelina Jolie, even Bill Gates and Muhammad Ali. Before they got known, before we knew what they did, before they got grown, everybody was a kid. Two little eyes staring from a crib, a tiny little mouth drooling on a bib, a tiny little fist with a tiny little grip. Before they grew up, everybody was a kid. So where you gonna go? Yeah, what you gonna do? Who you gonna be? We're just waiting on you. We're biting our nails, though we keep it well hid, because we all know everybody was a kid. I was a kid, and Reverend Suzanne and Tom were kids. Everybody here was a kid.
Each week, we take a few minutes out for prayer and meditation, a time for each of us to center ourselves and connect with the holy. Let's start by relaxing into our chairs, feeling our feet on the floor, letting our bodies settle. Let's breathe in and out together. In and out. In this meditation time, first we'll join in our centering song. Then we sit for a few minutes of shared silence. Then we will speak to one another of our joys and sorrows. And then Josh will lead a prayer. Our themes for October are courage and our second UUA principle, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. It's a month to think about how we, both as individuals and as a church, can create and share the courage to work for a more just and loving world. Our centering song for the month is called Meditation on Breathing. It's number 1009 in the Teal hymnal. Lyrics will appear on the screen, and Tom will lead us in singing. Join us as you like, and let the song guide you gently into our shared silence.
Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love.
Every Sunday, we share with one another the joys and sorrows of our lives, our personal milestones. We listen with openness and compassion, letting this sharing weave us into a strong community. If folks on Zoom have a sorrow to share today, please type it into the chat box now, and I will read them aloud. And if folks here in the room have a sorrow to speak, you may come forward now. From Jean Tay, a candle of remembrance for my former neighbor Dave, who died suddenly last month. Last year, we both sold our houses about 2 months apart after living next door to each other for almost 35 years. He had been living his lifelong dream of a home in Florida with a pool, working from home, and golfing as much as humanly possible. From Florence, praying for the continued healing of my dear friend Heather after surgery last week. And from Lisa W., concern for my Uncle Patrick, who found out this week he has advanced prostate cancer. Any sorrows in the room? Oh, please.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Took me a couple of decades to figure this out. My aunt, Peg Shortledge, died way back in 1982. She was by far my favorite of many aunts. They were all good, but she was great. She had a beautiful way of unconditionally loving people around her, and yet she had a great sadness about her that I could not explain until now. The story told me is that decades after her death, the story that was told me is that she was a teacher at a prestigious high school from which she was fired for having a love relationship with another woman teacher. My heart is only now waking up enough to start imagining what life would be like for a person who's not allowed to love openly as their heart desires.
Let us take a moment together to hold these sorrows together. May those who are hurting today know our love and support. May we reach out with kindness. And can we have one of the ushers light one of the candles for us? Thank you. Thank you, Alex. Alex will light the gray candle as a beacon of care for all the sorrows spoken and unspoken today. And now I'll ask for all the joys that you'd like to share. Folks on Zoom can type them into the chat box and I'll read them aloud. Folks here in the room with a joy can come forward now. Zoom joys.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Fanning, and my joy today is that I have my dad visiting today. He's here in church in the back row, so if you see someone new, he doesn't look like me, but he does look a little bit like Chuck. That's my dad.
I'm
Cheryl, and this is a proud band mom moment. Liz will understand, and Liz might have to, school me because I don't know what it all means. So yesterday, our competition, we got silver, and we got 79.3, which is, I guess, an upgrade from 69.6. So, and a bronze. So, just proud mom of band at the moment.
Hi, good morning. This is Paula, and I'm Jerry. It's an eventful weekend for my extended family. My brother Frank and two of his children just reached Everest Space Camp this morning successfully. That's as far as they're going. And Lydia, independently, we think summited Mount Washington yesterday, but we haven't heard from her. And our oldest child, Nick, and his now fiancee, Katrina, got engaged yesterday.
Thank you. I don't see any Zoom joys. So, thank you for sharing these joys, which help to connect us and remind us of all the beauty of living. And now Alex will light one candle to shine out our thanks for the many blessings in our lives. And now, Josh, I think you're up. Josh.
Please join me in prayer, spirit of prayer. Besides Indigenous People Day, the following poem highlights another important need for planet Earth. The day after tomorrow, October 11th, is National Coming Out Day. So I'm remembering my Aunt Peg while I read this. The title of the poem is A Blessing for the Front Lines by Anna Joffrey. Oh, you rebel, you queer and wayward child, you abandoned and listless, you angry and forgotten, you brown and black and indigenous, you homeless and impoverished, you dreamer, you warrior, you are not alone here. You have never been alone. Not in this place, not in this time, not in this whole history. There have always been ones like you. There will always be ones like you. We have always fought in the papers, in the streets, with paint cans and pens, through tear gas and water cannons, in your armor inadequate, in your fear and your rage. You have never been alone. Plant your feet like the 1,000-year-old oak. Scream like the ghosts of your ancestors. Light your hearts on fire with the ashes of all the dead sons.
This church is a self-supporting organization funded by your generous annual pledge. You may also contribute to our weekly collection plate, which we split every month with a deserving cause. Folks on Zoom can donate by using the orange button at the top right corner of the homepage at melroseuu.org. For the month of October, and in recognition of Indigenous Peoples Day, we will be giving half of our collection plate to the Massachusetts Ponkapog Tribal Council, who are the modern-day descendants of the people who stewarded for many generations this land where our church now sits. For our offertory music today, we offer another song by MUUC. This is Cloud Splitter.
A father farmer far off in the hills, rich in family, poor in dollar bills, struggling with the call of heaven's host, fighting off the demons and the ghosts. Heard a cry from far off in the south. He turned his gaze away from his own house, found the battle he was born to fight, took his sons and left that very night. The current conflict raging in the west, Lawrence, Kansas, next to face the test. The father and the sons come overland. Within a year there's blood on all their hands. Every man's affected when he kills. Death's a mighty bitter tasting pill. But John Brown heard the whisper in his ear, now bring to the South what you've done here. Cloud splitter, open up the skies, make this country open up its eyes. With cloud splitter, what's it gonna take? How's a nation fix a great mistake? October 16th, 1859, 21 men waiting for his sign to cross the wide Potomac to a shore where slavery's hold was cold as it was shore. Harper's Ferry fell without a fight, and 60 prisoners taken on the night. A fully loaded federal armory, but no slaves came to claim the weaponry. By next day's end, the army shot them down. They captured some, including old John Brown, dragged them to a local court in chains, and 2 months later all of them was hanged. On the stand, John Brown addressed the court, his right hand on the Bible for support. Remember, those in bonds is bound with them. I'm bound by laws of God, not laws of men. With cloud splitter, open up the sky, make this country open up its eyes. With cloud splitter, what's it gonna take? How's a nation fix a great mistake? Within 2 years, the Civil War had begun. Many reasons, John Brown being one. And though Abe Lincoln never did intend, he finished what Brown started in the end. Washington is on my dollar bill, Jefferson's memorial on the hill. John Brown gave his life for our great sin. The textbooks almost never mention him. Racial fear still fuels this nation's fire. The smoke is thick and always getting higher. Up in heaven, John Brown sits and cries. Come back, John, open up our eyes. With cloud splitter, open up the sky, make this country open up its eyes. With cloud splitter, what's it gonna take? How's a nation fix a great mistake? Yes, cloud splitter, open up the sky, make this country open up its eyes.
Good morning. My name is Donna Spomber-Cantillo. I've been attending Melrose UU Church remotely and am a member of the anti-racism team. I'm here to share a small way that I leverage part of who I naturally am into being actively anti-racist. I spent many years as an English, ESL, and Spanish teacher and lived for 3 years as a non-native speaker in Colombia. So language is one of my things, and language plays a large role in my intention to be actively anti-racist. As part of my ongoing education, I fill my reading and social media time with voices of the global majority. In people interactions, I practice mindful word choices, and slowly, though clumsily, I'm stepping up to engage and learn with other white people when I encounter language that upholds white supremacy or is otherwise harmful. For example, at this time of year, words like wilderness, pioneer, and settler are often encountered, and conversations about them can inform new perspectives. A language encounter leading to an action for me was simple and involved just a few extra minutes online. Googling recipes for collard greens I had bought from the farmer's market, I landed on a page of bonnieplants.com. Based in an area of Alabama known for collard production, they offered this bit of history. Quote, "Collards made their journey to the south from Africa. The southern method of cooking collard greens comes from the foodways that resourceful African plantation workers developed under slavery." Those words are still hard for me to see, and they hit me hard, and it was something I could act on in the moment. Clicking their email as civilly as possible, I noted that quaint language, like foodways of resourceful workers, and the passive voice developed under slavery was a harmful softening of the reality, a reality of enslaved peoples with no choice but to use an array of sophisticated survival skills, including making the most of the nutrition and flavor of a familiar food. Did that have an impact? I have to believe at least one person read it, but the text is still there, so they'll be hearing from me again. The power of words is evidenced by the effort enemies of justice put forth trying to diminish or misuse them. As we strive to find new, more inclusive, or simply more truthful language to explore and explain our shared world, some attempts will be awkward, but for me, participating and promoting the examination and evolution of language is one very personal and lived way that I can be actively anti-racist. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Beth Yergrau, and I'm a longtime member here at MUUC. And I also have a very long-term connection to Temple Beth Shalom, which I will refer to now as TBS, through my husband, Tug. I've belonged to the TBS Sisterhood Book Group for years. In late 2019, one of the members, Sue Hers, you may have heard her name, asked if anyone was interested in participating in a 5-week, 2-hour-a-week course called Unpacking Whiteness. It was offered by TBS and led by Sue and another close friend. My first thought was, which I think is quite typical, is I didn't need it. Still, I signed up for the course, and it was very clear from the first class that I really had a lot to learn. What made the biggest impact on me was being asked to identify an anti-racism action plan, and we needed to have that we were asked to have that by the last class. At the time, my life at home was full. I had 2 positions that were both quite consuming at work. And probably most importantly of all, I didn't want anything to be cutting into the time I spent with my 96-year-old father. So I had to think, okay, what can I do? So this is what I chose. I chose first, which was the natural thing, to join the TBS Social Action Committee, which was in fact led by Sue Hers. That was a natural. And later the MUUC ART, but it wasn't enough. So I discovered a way to be actively anti-racist in a space I already existed in, which was work. I brought more of an anti-racist approach to my workplace, and it was sitting right there in the palm of my hands. As the director of the Behavioral Health Family Resource Center, I chose speakers and topics for 9 behavioral health lectures every year. This was an opportunity to do much more focused anti-racism work. I, of course, had some of that in there, but not enough. So I made a very diligent effort to seek out speakers who would address how racial disparities and the pandemic impacted their topic. And they were on Zoom, so they were widely seen throughout Mass General Hospital. And not just as an afterthought addendum, but as a primary focus. Every effort was made to hire presenters that didn't look like me or anyone in my family. Every effort, my first lecture was a psychologist whose parents were born in Sri Lanka. She spoke about understanding racial identity models and ways to feel more comfortable discussing the uncomfortable. After that, I had presenters from Haiti that were born in Haiti and Uganda speak about the racial, cultural, and ethnic impacts of the pandemic on struggling students in K through 12 in Salem and Malden. And another one was having the first medical director of DEI at Salem Hospital speak, and she was a physician from Puerto Rico, and she spoke about her work reaching out to communities of color. If I had not taken the Unpacking Whiteness class and committed to an action plan, the lectures would not, absolutely would not have been so focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. I was determined. I retired from the hospital in early June and continued to want to take anti-racism action. One of the goals of MUUC ART is to support and work with existing anti-racist groups in Melrose, surrounding communities, and beyond. With that in mind, we have a list of anti-racism groups that's available for a handout. Yeah, it'll be there'll be many on the table and some on the benches in this bright blue, and I'll ultimately put this up on the website. And it's relevant as of October 2022. So as up to date as I could find. In my experience, the more I know about anti-racism, the more committed I am to action. I will close with a short excerpt from the Rosh Hashanah prayer book that I thought spoke this well. That each of us be an advocate for justice, an activist for liberty, and a defender of dignity.
Good morning. I'm going to speak off the cuff a little bit. I have some notes. It's as best I could do. When the ART asked me to speak, I thought back on my own journey. I've been teaching social justice and civil rights programs to kids for nearly 15 years, but that to me didn't feel like the work of anti-racism. It was adjacent. The pandemic gave me an opportunity to re-examine my relationship with this work. Two opportunities came down the road, and I jumped on them. The first was to co-found Family Music Forward, which is an equity group working in the children's music space, and the other was to help found Melrose's Racial Justice Community Coalition that same year. That work was deep and uncomfortable and shared with peers of color, which is often not how this work proceeds for many of us. Oftentimes, the way we're best suited is to work with other white folks in neighborhoods like this, in our backyards. That work helped lead me to new education programs with my friend Reggie Harris, who many of you have heard perform here with me and in town. And then the church helped support the Opening Doors Project, which is an interview series, interview and performance series, discussing race through music with performers and folks doing active anti-racist work. My song about John Brown is not a directive. For most of us, taking over federal armories and killing many people is probably not the way we can be most helpful. But what strikes me about John Brown is how nearly 200 years ago, he understood in such a deep way that racism and the structures of racism affected him personally, and that his responsibilities were deep. He wasn't involved in the work to be kind. He was in the work because it was an imperative. Some of the ingredients that I've learned along the way are that reading and listening is a big piece of how we move forward. Reading sometimes gets denigrated as a passive activity, but I think it's central before we can do anything of use to learn perspectives that we don't see. I spend a lot of time reading, a lot of time listening, including to other folks, other white folks doing anti-racist work. For me personally, the musician Dan Zanes became a bit of a mentor, and the time that we spoke together was deeply important to me, to be able to connect to another white man and to somebody who had been doing this work much longer and could share with me where the pitfalls are and what he's learned along the way. We're always learning. A key ingredient, I think, for me was learning how to be wrong. White men in our country are especially ill-equipped for this ingredient of the work. We are taught from a young age to be right and to stand with our convictions. Being wrong is a key piece of learning anything new, and being willing to be wrong and being able to learn from the mistakes you make, because they will be so many. And then the third piece that I think about is, as you jump in the work, what is the work? We tend to ask ourselves, where do we want to be? What do we want to achieve? And underlying this is a notion of what would make me feel better. I've come to feel that the more important question is, where am I most needed? What's my skill set? What's my temperament? Where and when do I have time to do sustained work? And to Beth's point, often that work is right under our noses in the places that we already spend so much of our time. There's no piece of American culture that isn't touched by structural racism, and we can affect it right where we spend our time. And then I guess finally, and maybe this is something that I've come to feel in general in life, is picking a thing and then doing that thing well is important. We often tend to want to do lots of things. Let me go to all of these different meetings. If we can find one thing that's meaningful work, that's important, and we can do that thing to the best of our ability and put our time there, that's a real contribution. Thanks.
My name is Josh Shortledge, and I'm the head of the anti-racism team. I have an obsession living deep in my heart, one which hopefully you will cradle, or will cradle you all. I invite you all to help me grow my obsession into reality. Since George Floyd's murder, I have taken 5 courses in anti-racism. While they taught me some worthwhile fundamentals, something important was missing: a community of students to work with afterwards. One of the fundamentals that I learned was very personal and totally shocking. I am a white, male, Christian, heterosexual, and the list goes on and on. The thing that shocked me was that I did not realize that I was the top of the heap of the human power chain on planet Earth for the last 60 years. For some reason, no one taught me this in first grade. A second fundamental that I learned was that the people who are in power are really the ones who need to undo the mistakes that they made in our history. For example, it is hard for black people to undo systemic racism. Really hard. Is this on? Really hard. White people need to undo the systemic laws and the hidden biases that exist in humans, and that oppress other humans who are not like themselves. My obsession, which will hopefully cradle you all, is as follows. Please let's study together and lead ourselves into the hidden well of truth. Let's gather shoulder to shoulder in this very Melrose UU sanctuary to learn important things that we may not yet know about racism and how white people can cure it with easy anti-racist actions like those described by my teammates today. We need to do this with the wisdom and support of our connected community. Each of our hearts will challenge the hearts of others among us with new ideas and hold each other accountable while we all dismantle racism. Let's invite stakeholders from the city of Melrose, from our children's schools, Jewish sisters and brothers from Temple Beth Shalom, and members from other local UU congregations. And yes, let's invite the indigenous people who live among us on their land. I found a course that can plant the seeds for my obsession. The course is taught by 2 people of color who have lived immersed in racism their whole lives. Although white people need to do the work, these 2 black people are very generously offering their perspectives on the history and on the mission before us. There are no homework assignments, no grades. We can attend remotely, but ideally we should attend in person. We need to share our deepest learning and thoughts together over one full weekend to gather in a holy time of learning. That course, named Jubilee 3, will sow the seeds so my obsession can grow into a new reality for our church and community. I invite you all to please attend. The date has yet to be determined. Thank you. And as we close here, when we go into the next hall to have the lunch, I know, we're not quite done. That there will be some pages on the tables where we eat, which give you some calls to action where you can do some things. And you've seen Beth's blue list of all the social groups in our midst. Will be accompanied also by this smaller white sheet that has some social actions that you can take that Ann Easterbrook put together.
We'd like to sing this through once for you and then have you join us for a repeat of the lyrics that are on the screen. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the souls of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. Join us. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
Please remain standing or sitting is fine, and join me in extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish the flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Amen. Our service has ended. Friends here in the room can gather in Parish Hall in just a minute for a potluck lunch. Please see info on the tables that were mentioned before to learn about some simple actions you can take towards anti-racism. And we will put that info up on a slide for folks on Zoom. Thank you. thank you all for worshiping with us today.